Hello everybody, welcome to the Coaching Conversation. I'm Graham Wiley and I've been coaching business leaders for the last 2 decades. In this series we're going to explore some of the things I've seen and learned in that 2 decades and hopefully help you see how you can become more focused, more effective and hopefully happier in your life. So it's now time to sit back, relax and enjoy the Coaching Conversation. Hello everybody and welcome to this edition of the Coaching Conversation. And I'm really pleased to say that today I'm joined by Tara Ryder, who is a mental fitness coach who's been coaching many people from around the world over the last year or so in improving and taking control of their own mental fitness. And Jed Hassid. Jed has been running a mental fitness pod for, it must be nearly a year now, Jed, is that right?
Pretty much.
And so what we thought we would do today is just share those experiences of what's happened and what we've learned, what we've enjoyed, what's been a challenge through that program from 2021. So, starting with you, Jed, how many people are in your pod?
There are 5, including myself, from various backgrounds. And business leaders and consultants, so a range of backgrounds, all of whom I think I'm sort of the common element, as it were, in as much as I knew all of them. So, but prior to them coming together, a couple of them knew each other, but the others didn't. So it just came together. And
not all men, not all women?
No, a combination. There are 2 ladies and 3 blokes.
Great. And Tara, you've managed a number of pods this year.
Yes.
What sort of people have you found in your pods?
Again, a very big range, because I've had quite a few from UK, but I've also had quite a few overseas as well, ranging from the US to Costa Rica. So it's been very interesting. It's, again, a mixture of male, female, and people from varying different levels within businesses as well. So people who are more leaders down to just management level.
Mental fitness is really a lifelong journey, isn't it? It's not something that you start on and then suddenly you're fit and you can ignore it forever.
Yeah.
That concept, as a coach, how easy is it to get the concept that this is the start of learning to run a marathon as opposed to you've done it, now it's finished? How easy is that to get that across to people, Jed?
It's a great question. I think it's got easier, not least because the challenges that we've all lived through over the last couple of years and COVID, etc. The issue of mental health and mental fitness particularly has come up the agenda hugely. And so it almost feels as though you are tapping at a slightly open door, but you still have to make that first step. And using the sporting analogy of going to the gym, and if you don't go to the gym physically, you know about it when you return to the gym if you haven't done so. So you have to continue to do it. It is that ongoing journey, as opposed to, right, I've done that, now I'm going to do something else. But I think it's getting slightly easier, not least for the reasons I mentioned.
Tara, when people embark on this mental fitness journey, they find the understanding of the teaching of the practice quite easy to grasp, but it's actually knuckling down to a bit like a gym. It's easy to work out how the machines work, but you still got to go and run on them. Mm-hmm. How do you find that when you're trying to motivate people through that period so they pick up and take responsibility for themselves daily?
I think the biggest issue we come across, or I've come across, is time. People are scared to give time, and that's something that I have found people don't want to give up because they find they don't have that to do the practices every day. So for me, another analogy that I use is also like about weight loss. People are very much keen to try and eat healthy and want to lose weight for one reason or another. And I always say to people, it's not something that you can just start and then lose the weight and then it'll stay off forever. It's something that you've got to constantly work at. And mental fitness is exactly the same. So I found if you bring it to a level where people can understand that, then they buy into it easier, and they understand, actually, I can do this and I can carry this on. And then they see that actually the time element just disappears. Once they've really understood what they need to do through the program, they realise actually the time is minimal. It's nothing.
It's an interesting point, because mental fitness really is about creating new habits so that you react to life's challenges in different, more positive ways than perhaps some of the older habits you'd have had, where you believe that the world's against you or everything's just a misfortune and pile stress on yourself. Whereas through the mental fitness coaching that we practice, we're helping and encouraging people to think more positively about it, but it is about adopting a new habit. So Jed, what have you found with your pod? How have they taken to that?
In many and varied ways, Graham, really, and it never ceases to amaze me the variety of situations where a program such as explicit mental fitness lends itself. So let me give you an example. For instance, one of the pod members talked about a difficult relationship that he was having with his eldest daughter, and he explicitly stopped, took himself off, and started to think through, as a result of the techniques that he's been learning on this program, as to why it was that she was reacting to him in the way that she was, and more interestingly perhaps, in that he can only control himself, how he was reacting to what he was hearing and seeing from his daughter. And I have to say that this happened roughly 3 or so months ago, and he now reports that the relationship, whilst not fantastic, has certainly improved enormously as a consequence of this guy taking a step back and using some of these techniques to be able to reflect and alter the way that he thinks about the situation that he has with his daughter. Very powerful.
What about you, Tara? Have you got any similar examples?
Yeah, definitely. I've got probably a personal one, actually, more so from when I went through the program. I've got a young daughter who has a lot of separation anxiety issues, and by going through the program, it's made me realise a lot of it actually lies with myself, and how I react to her issues of being away from myself. And it's improved dramatically, to the point I can leave her and I can drop her at school without any tantrums and tears potentially from both of us. And again, there's no shouting in the house. There is no uncomfortable behaviour between any of us. It's just, it has mellowed everything out. And like you said, I can only control myself. I can only control my behaviour, but I recognise some of the saboteurs potentially that rear up in her, and I think she is very young, but I can still see them there. And I just think it's powerful that you can recognise that in other people. So although you can't control that, by understanding what that is in somebody else can help you then potentially change your behaviour.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed in my experience with pods is that people don't just use it, or don't just use the practices on themselves. They share them with others, not as an evangelist, not as a preacher, but they see someone who they believe would benefit from understanding a technique, whether it's a small moment of meditation, whether it's a positive outlook on a challenging situation, and they help these people to overcome that particular challenge. And by doing so, they reinforce that behaviour in themselves. They prove it works for others as well as themselves, and they get a double whammy. They get a double payback.
Yeah.
So going forward into 2022, what do you see as the likely development of mental fitness in our client base and in our local population? What do we think we're going to see?
It's an interesting question, because I think in part what I would hope to see, and what I will encourage colleagues, clients and the like, is that this is a topic that is explicitly discussed at the senior levels within an organisation. So we can bring this in with employee experience as well, just to make sure that formally board senior decision makers are acknowledging that this is so important in order to, let's be clear about it, look after probably the most valuable asset in most, maybe not all, but most businesses. So it's not only about having objectives and having personal development plans and all of that kind of stuff, which is absolutely necessary, but also being clear about the mental fitness and the mental well-being of our colleagues is absolutely vital.
Tara?
Yeah, I agree, because I work with a lot of HR managers, and I find it's dealing with stress levels, and it's dealing with situations in those roles that can cause anxiety to raise. And I think from our perspective, it's getting that word out there that this is such an important thing, and especially now, because of life has changed. As we've discussed before, there's lots more people working from home, and it's how does that work? Does that cause any issues for the employee? Does it cause issues for the employer? And it's getting people to understand that having a program in place whereby they are looking into the mental fitness of their staff, that it can in turn have such a great impact.
One of the interesting side issues or side effects of the program and of mental fitness awareness is you help people realise that they're in control of themselves and their lives, and that's how they reduce their stress, because the only person who puts you under stress is yourself. And so the beauty of that is you start to lead towards a self-actualisation process. People can take more control of their lives, which means they can be much more productive as members of a team. And so if an organisation, the leaders of an organisation understand this, mental fitness is not only good at looking after the staff, it's a great way of triggering high performance teams. The more people are able to be in control of themselves, the more they're able to work more productively together, find more creative solutions and support each other. And so not only does it feed on the well-being of the individual, it feeds on the well-being of the whole organisation. And so that kind of enlightenment is a next step from the individual program that we've been talking about. Thanks everybody. This is the end of this session. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it enjoyable. Thanks to Jed. Thanks to Tara. And we'll see you again next time. So there you have it. The latest edition of the Coaching Conversation. Hope you found it interesting. Hope you found it useful. You can find out more about our coaching programs at theexecutivemindset.co.uk. If you want to reach out, you can send me an email at theexecutivemindset@sagegreen.com. You can book a free 30-minute session at theexecutivemindset.co.uk, which will give you a really good feel for how coaching could help you. And if you've really enjoyed the session, do please rate us, do please give us a review. And nothing more for me to say other than see you next time.